Hello, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, my name is Erica. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. So today I have another reading wrap up for you. So right here, I have the books that I read in August. They were all so good and so unique and different and amazing in their own way. And before I get into reading those, if you are wondering what I'm interested in reading, I do have an Amazon wish list and I just keep adding books to it. So if you're interested in looking at what I want to read, you can check that out. I'll put that in the description down below. And yeah, with that being said, let's just get to the first book that I read this month. So the first book that I read this month was People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry, and I heard a lot of great things about this one. People were hyping it up all over Book Talk and BookTube. People could not get enough of this, so obviously if it had that big of a hype, I had to check it out. And I will say it did not disappoint. I was very, very happy with this one, and I'm happy I decided to read it. So this book is Friends to Lovers, and the main characters are Poppy and Alex, who are complete opposites of each other. Alex is very wholesome and kind of more quiet and logical with his thinking, but Poppy is spontaneous and fun and she loves to travel. But they hit it off and they become really good friends, and once a year they go on a vacation with each other. So this book takes place with past chapters as well as present chapters perspectives, and in the past you are hearing about the vacation they take each summer and where they went and how the relationship kind of develops and grows with each other. And then from the present chapters, 2 years ago, something happened on that vacation and they haven't really spoken since. Poppy kind of has everything she wants right now. She has this job that she really wanted for a while, but she's stuck in a rut. And someone asks her what makes her truly happy, and she really doesn't know anymore. So she kind of decides to try and find that spark again, and she reaches out to Alex. And she actually convinces him to go on a vacation again, and from there you learn in the present day chapters of how they're kind of reconnecting and building that relationship again. So I thought it was really interesting because you got to see these past chapters about like how that relationship was growing, but you also got to witness it growing in the present chapters and how there were similarities but also differences and how they like grew up as individuals in the meantime. I really enjoyed the past and present chapters because I was just so intrigued to keep reading. Every time I got to the present, I had to keep reading quickly to get to the past chapters again because I just wanted to know what happened to make them not be close anymore, because you're seeing the relationship develop in past and present and you're just like, you are made for each other, so what happened? So having the past and the present definitely made me read it quicker because I just needed answers. I needed to find out what happened. A perfect read for the summer. They go on vacation and you get to see all the places that they go to and the people that they meet, and it's just so good. I will not stop recommending this one. Having the past chapters in this really helped to build the tension between the two, because in the present you kind of already feel that tension but you don't know where it's coming from. So in the past chapters you're learning where all this tension started from, and it makes it so much better when things happen. Chapter 26, that's all I'm gonna say. But having the past really helped to build that tension between the two, and I really liked the author's writing style with that and her character development because it was intriguing. I just really wanted to keep reading it. But overall, I really enjoyed this book. I love the characters, the story, the way the author wrote it, and just everything about it. So I do recommend you check this one out. Okay, moving on to the second book I read, and that is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This book, oh my gosh. Okay, this was another one, first of all, that was trending all over the place, and I saw people sobbing while they read it, and I was like, is it really that emotional? I'm gonna have to check it out. So I did, and I cried. Oh my gosh, it's so good. Okay, before I get into how I feel, I'll tell you a little bit more about it. So the Hollywood icon Evelyn Hugo is finally ready to tell her story to the world after years and years of acting and kind of not really telling anyone the truth about her life, and she reaches out to Monique Grant, who is a journalist, to write her story. So the weird thing is that Evelyn wants only Monique to do it. She won't reach out to anyone else. She says, if Monique doesn't agree to this, no one's writing my story, so it's you or no one else. And Monique's like, why me? Why does Evelyn Hugo want me? You find that out in the book. Oh, wow, okay, there's a lot to unpack in this thing, and it's so good. You just have to read it. Okay, so we have chapters that are kind of taking place from Monique actually talking to her in the present day, but like I have in my tabs here, you're also going through Evelyn's journey of her life and her 7 husbands that she meets. I really liked how the author split up the chapters in the past, focusing on each stage and each husband she had, because when it would start off, it would go like this. It would have the husband's name, and on top of it, it would say something to describe him. So she describes the first husband as poor, and then there's one along the way and they describe him as gullible. So it's like before each chapter you're kind of already going in with like Okay, this is how this husband is perceived by Evelyn Hugo. Now let's find out exactly what happened. Each husband has its own heartbreaking story. Harry. Harry is my favorite character in this entire thing. This book was so intense and so heartbreaking in so many ways. It was just beautifully written, and the whole time I just wanted Evelyn to be like this real life human. I wanted to just like Google her and be like, please be real, because your story is just, she went through so much and the author captures it perfectly. Like the detail in this book and every emotion is just felt between her and all of these different husbands that she has. And then in the present day with Monique, when you find out why Evelyn wants her to be the only person to interview her, I never saw that coming. I tell you, the last few chapters in here, I was bawling my eyes out because of everything that was happening. So many things happened between so many different characters and I was just sobbing. I will say it took me a little bit to get into it at first because it wasn't like a typical romance and I was kind of on like that side of where I wanted to be reading right now. But very quickly I was hooked on this, and like I said, every different husband has such a complex story and she went through so much throughout her life to get to where she was and the reasons why she's doing these things, and it's just, oh. And her relationship with Celia, okay, maybe I'll change my mind. Celia and Harry, best characters in this thing, and it's just so heartbreakingly beautiful. Overall, it was so well done, and it was just filled with unexpected friendships and heartbreaks and forbidden loves, and oh, so good. I highly recommend you check this one out if you just want to dive deep into the story of Evelyn Hugo. And Taylor Jenkins Reid, oh my gosh, one of my favorite authors now. I definitely have to check out other stuff that she's written because I was invested in this book and I really didn't want it to be over. So I highly recommend you check this one out to figure out why it was just so like mind-blowing. Yeah, this one's great. So the next book I read is called Almond, and I don't know if you would have heard of it, but the reason I heard of it is because if you know me, I love BTS, and when I was watching BTS in the Soup, Namjoon and Yoongi actually read this book and they said it was really good, and I saw a lot of other ARMY saying it was a really good book as well. So I thought, might as well check it out. Duh. I loved it. First of all, it's a really easy read, so if you're looking for something not too complicated, I recommend this one. It's not very complicated, but it's filled with so many deep and meaningful messages, and that's what I really liked about this book. So it's in the point of view of the main character Yeonjae, and he has a brain condition where he doesn't experience emotions and he finds it really difficult to feel what others are feeling or show how he's feeling. And it's split into a couple of sections. So in the first section, it's kind of going through his childhood and how his mother and his grandmother were raising him and how they discovered him to have this brain condition. And then it goes into the next part where it focuses on him after a horrible accident that took place and how he's dealing with that and the people that he meets going through his adolescence. So what really intrigued me about this book right away was the prologue, and I'm going to read it to you before I talk about it. So it says, "I have almonds inside me, so do you. So do those you love and those you hate. No one can feel them. You just know they are there. This story is, in short, about a monster meeting another monster. One of the monsters is me. I won't tell you whether it's a happy ending or a tragic ending, because first of all, every story becomes boring once the ending is spoiled. Second of all, not telling you will make you more engaged in this one. Lastly, I know it sounds like an excuse, but neither you nor I nor anyone can really know whether a story is happy or tragic." So right away I was like, okay, what happens in this story? So like I said, it's split into a couple parts, and in that first part with his mother and his grandmother raising him, this horrible accident takes place, like so tragic and so horrible, and he doesn't really know how to cope with it. And that's when you get into that second part when he is trying to cope with it and keep living his life, but he's struggling because, like I said, he has this brain condition and he doesn't know how to feel emotions or deal with other people's emotions. He doesn't know how to recognize that, so he's really struggling, and he has people trying to help him along the way, but he still is really confused. And he meets this other character who is the other monster he described in the prologue there. So the other character is gone, and he has his own tragic story. It's heartbreaking what this character has to go through, but he's kind of like this tough guy, bad guy that kind of doesn't want to show his vulnerable side, but Yeonjae sees that in him. He sees that he's only pretending to be strong, and he kind of tries to get to know him more, and Gon tries to get to know Yeonjae more. And in the second part, they're becoming closer friends. They do go through a rough patch where they're constantly fighting and they want Yeonjae to stay away from him, but they can't really stay away from each other. They are intrigued by each other's emotions. It's like, in a way, they need each other to help the other survive, and you kind of experience that through that second part. Now in the third part, you're seeing him meet this girl Dora, and he kind of develops a little crush here. He's not really sure what's going on because he doesn't really recognize his emotions, but he likes her, and Gon kind of senses that as well, and he kind of gets jealous. It's like someone's trying to take his friend away, and he kind of turns back to his more rebellious side, and he goes missing. Something happens, and Yeonjae goes to look for him, and whatever happens there, I'm not going to spoil it for you. Oh my goodness, that broke me. I didn't think I was going to cry through this. Like, it was a really easy read, and it was like I was learning a lot of like life lessons in this book. I didn't think I was going to cry, but another incident that happens at the end between the two really just showed the true colors of like how much they meant to each other, and it broke my heart. Oh my god. Okay, so yeah, I recommend you check this one out. It's really interesting reading from the perspective of him with his brain condition, and how he doesn't really recognize these emotions that he's feeling, and how he's growing through his adolescence, and he's growing these relationships, and how he's developing in his own way. And you're also looking at how Gon develops as an individual through his adolescence. It's just a really wholesome yet sad read, but filled with so many lessons in there, and it kind of just like changes your perspective on a lot of things. So I'm really happy that Namjoon and Yoongi pointed this out in the soup, and ARMY kind of took it upon themselves to read it as well and recommend it to other ARMY, because I really did enjoy this. So if you are a BTS fan and you know any other books that any of the members have read, leave them in the comments below, because this one was really good and I think you should read it. So the last book I read is 99% Mine by Sally Thorne, and this is the same author as The Hating Game, which if you saw my last booktube video, The Hating Game is not one of my favorite books I've ever read, so I knew I had to pick up this one because it's the same author, and I was not disappointed. I still think I like The Hating Game a little bit more, but I still really like this one. It was the same kind of writing style, and it was easy to read and easy to follow, filled with the tension and all that kind of stuff. This one is childhood friends to lovers, brother's best friend, forbidden love tropes. There's a lot of little tropes in there, but so good. So basically it follows the main character Darcy, and she has a twin, Jamie, and when they were growing up they met Tom, who was across the street, and he didn't have the best upbringing, and they kind of took him in, and he was part of the family. But Darcy always felt like Tom was off limits because he was best friends with her brother, and so she never really got to have Tom for herself, and she kind of just like told herself that that's how it was supposed to be. And now they're older, and Darcy and Jamie's grandmother passed away and left her cottage to them, and they're gonna get it redone, and Tom is into that kind of stuff and he's gonna redo it for them. So the book takes place from when Tom is helping Darcy to redo the house. So Tom is actually in a relationship, and Darcy is obviously heartbroken by that. She's still madly in love with him in secret, but it's kind of obvious. But then early on, Tom breaks the news that he actually split up from his girlfriend. So the entire book is just filled with tension between the two. It's like, we know we want each other, but we're not actually gonna act upon it because of my brother and all these different factors that are going on. I love Tom. He's just such a sweetheart. He's very like, I will always be there for you. I will literally save you whenever you need me. He's just always there for her. He's the sweetest person ever. And Darcy's not really the romantic type. She's very like an edgy kind of girl, but she is just so in love with Tom, and she just wants to pounce at him throughout this entire book, so it's really funny. It's a rom-com. There's lots of humor, lots of things that go on. But throughout all of that tension and just like how much you know they want each other, Darcy's brother is still like, no, he's off limits. You can't get to him. He needs to focus on this task here. He still wants to get back with his ex, all this stuff. He's off limits. So Darcy's kind of dealing with that. She's dealing with the emotions of like what she really wants, but also not wanting to get in between her brother or Tom or mess up that relationship, because she also had a falling out with her brother not too long ago. But at the same time, Darcy's just really done with not having 100% of Tom for herself, so she's kind of just like trying to figure out how to navigate how to make him hers while not upsetting her brother or anyone else. I recommend this one. It's a really light read, but it's also funny, and the tension is there, and it's also hilarious because it's just like all of her inner thoughts that she's not saying out loud. But yeah, I really recommend this one if you are looking for something light and funny and tension filled between the characters. So that is it for my August wrap up. I hope you enjoyed this video. Like I said at the beginning, I do have an Amazon wish list if you want to see what I'm interested in reading next. It'll be in the description down below. I will also put my links to my social media down there as well if you want to follow me on there. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!